You're listening to the Live Out Loud podcast with River Wynn and Michele Flamer.
Hi, River.
Hi, Michele.
I have my coffee. Do you have coffee?
I had coffee. I drank all my coffee.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So today is the first sort of week of November.
Yeah. First weekend of November. Mm-hmm.
And I think I read that there is I thought we were done with the eclipses, or is there just another full moon coming in? Is it Scorpio or is it Aries?
No,
Like, what is it?
no. The astrology right now is just that there's like Saturn was in retrograde
Oh,
and that
that's it.
ends today. Yeah.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
I feel like everything is imploding lately. Like, I have friends who have lost jobs, who have broken up. Like, it just feels like a very tumultuous energy for folks out there, regardless if they are spiritual or not, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're open, if you're like, if you have a little bit of a portal to your own energy, I think it's just probably really important to notice any embodiment changes, right? Like where you're feeling in your body and kind of writing down what is for you or what's coming up for you in these moments. It's just, I felt a huge release come through me in the last couple of days. It's just been very interesting energy.
Same. Since yesterday, we were talking about this earlier. I had a therapy session yesterday that really helped me process some things. And since then, I have just felt like a shift where I feel lighter. I feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulder.
Wow.
And that's interesting because we are in a very heavy collective energy right now. There's so much going on in the world, and it feels like you're saying, like, I know people who are losing their jobs left and right and in unexpected, completely sporadic ways. All kinds of things happening. It's really people breaking up, ending long relationships. Like, there's a lot going on right now, like, collectively.
There is. It's just been fascinating. And of course, I've just been trying to stay in my present self, like really staying present and really taking that Buddhist sort of energy of I can no longer fix what's in the past. Like there's a real, like a layer of skin that I have shed. And maybe it's other Aquarians, maybe it's other air signs, things like that. I mean, it just feels like, and I'm still learning all these terms, like are you a fixed sign? Because you fall into earth, but you don't also fall into cardinal. And like
My chart is so complex because my birthday is April 20th, 420. I am right on the cusp.
I forget
I'm a 420 baby who doesn't smoke. It's hilarious.
I know.
I am on the cusp of Aries and Taurus. And then my moon, so you have your big three in astrology, right? Like your sun, your moon, and your rising. Those are like the three big defining astrological markers. So I have an Aries, Taurus cusp, sun, and then I'm a Cancer moon and a Scorpio rising. So my chart, and there's a lot of Taurus in my chart. There's a lot of Scorpio in my chart. There's a lot of Aries in my chart. Like, my chart is complicated.
So if you're hearing from like an astrologer or something, you really have to take it from a sense of air, or whatever, sun, moon, or rising, right?
Yeah.
Like you kind of have to hear it from like across the gamut, like because you cross over so much. Like,
yeah. It's like, if I look at, like, I don't really read horoscopes anymore for that reason, because like the Taurus horoscope doesn't
necessarily
always
resonate.
resonate for
Yeah.
me, because it's like I'm so much more than that, astrologically speaking. That really, it's like when it comes to astrology, I really have to pay attention to my own chart and like see where, like, for example, Saturn being retrograde, like where does Saturn fall in my personal chart? So how does that affect me personally versus someone else?
I think what I meant to take you down the road of when you're getting a tarot reading or you're doing a tarot for yourself and a card pops up that feels like it's water energy, or you know how they kind of some, you know, like how some readers have decks that are sort of like this hat, like it literally says like Cancer or water or air or fire energy.
Mm-hmm.
Are you looking at the symbolism of just what the actual card represents, like Two of Cups or Nine of Wands, and you, because you know the meaning already, or are you listening for the subtleties of that reader and how that relates? Like when they say, I'm seeing fire energy, what does that mean to you?
I
Does that make
think,
sense? Or am I talking
yeah,
gibberish?
no, totally. But I think
Okay,
for me,
good.
I think I'm like thinking how to answer it. I think for me, I think the astrology of a card only for me resonates if it's answering like a specific question.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense? Of like, if I were to ask a question like, oh, I have this person in my life, and like, or asking like about a love reading, like what's the energy of the person coming in? And they were to be like, oh, it's an earth sign, like then that would resonate for me or something like that.
Okay.
Or I'd be paying attention for the people in my life, like entering my life who were an earth sign. I have that energy.
Gotcha.
So I don't really pay attention necessarily to like the astrology of the tarot cards unless it's trying to answer a specific question. Does that
That
make
totally,
sense?
totally makes sense for me.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I look at it too. I just was curious from
Mm,
your standpoint, because again, I'm just super curious and like
yeah.
asking more questions. But um, yeah, it's pretty fascinating. And you were talking about how your therapy, IFS, right? Internal Family Systems, which you know I'm learning about, feels
Yeah.
like a soul retrieval.
Yes.
Well, yesterday you said a soup retrieval, and I was like, let's get some soup.
Autocorrect. Autocorrect for the win.
Yeah,
Soup
but I thought
retrieval. Let's retrieve some soup.
I was like, do you have ramen in the house? You're like, I do have ramen. I'm like, I love how we go down. I'm making lobster bisque. Hayden totally loved the lobster bisque.
Butternut squash soup sounds real good right now.
I know it's all yummy coming into
No,
that season.
internal family systems feels like, it felt like to me, what I had experienced from a soul retrieval with a shaman. And as I have experienced it more and more, I actually said to my therapist yesterday at the end of our session, I said, what we're doing here feels like a soul retrieval. And I can say that to her because she's also a spiritually minded person.
Mm,
And so I said that to her and she goes, yes. And I said, but it's different from a soul retrieval in that in a soul retrieval, a shaman goes in and does part of the work for you. And then you have homework on how to like integrate it and all of that. They retrieve the piece of your soul, bring it back to you, you do the integration afterwards, right? Internal family systems, which is a model in counseling for working with the internal parts of yourself, requires you to do the work of
got it.
speaking
That's
to the
cool.
part and retrieving it. So it's different. And so I said to her, I was like, it's like a soul retrieval, but I have to do the work. And she was like, bingo. Exact. Yes, absolutely. You're so right. Like, yes, that is what it is. And it was cool to see how, and she and I talked about this, about how there are some aspects in therapy that align with aspects of spirituality and cultural practices that we've moved away from, that human beings have been doing for a very long time. So like the concept of soul retrieval in shamanism has been around for a very long time.
Thousands of
Humans
years.
have been doing that for generations, thousands of years. But science has caught up to it and given us a model to work with it in the therapeutic setting, counseling setting that makes sense to our modern science-based human brains.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. The other, and I think it sounds, so when you're looking for a therapist who could focus on IFS, is there a specific place to go to look for them? Or is it about Googling IFS therapist near me and hoping that they take your insurance?
Possibly. I already knew my therapist, like on a personal level before I started working with this person. So I already knew that they like kind of how they worked with things, and we had a conversation about how they approach therapy. So I didn't have to look for it.
Yeah.
It was kind of there. I would say that if I were going to look for a therapist who does IFS, internal family systems, I would probably do a Google search to see what's close to me, look for a directory. But then a lot of therapists may not actually list on their bio what exactly that they do in therapy, like what their modalities of counseling are. So I think it's important maybe to just reach out to people and find out
I
how
like
they
that.
interact with therapy. Like, are they strictly talk therapy? Are they doing EMDR? Or what are they doing? Brain spotting? Are they doing IFS? Like, how do they approach therapy?
Tapping.
Yeah, tapping. Yeah. I think, yeah, it's like it's important to almost kind of like shop for a therapist.
No, it's true. Yeah, totally. I think it's one of those things. So what's interesting about that IFS is just really kind of just maybe even calling the therapist and asking if they do it. If it's not
Yeah.
on their bio, like pretty clear.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot of people don't realize, like with any type of self-care, medical care, like take time to find the right provider for you. The first therapist you work with may not be a good fit for you. And listen to
Exactly.
yourself. Just because you're talking to a therapist doesn't mean that that's the therapist for you.
Yeah. I think
Um,
so.
and I've worked with a couple of different therapists, and I've had things I've appreciated about every single one of them. But the therapist I'm working with now is the one who resonates the most for me in what it is that I need and what I'm looking for.
Okay, so this is a good question to like lead into this. Like, if we're talking about therapy and we're talking about our own personal development, there are times when that maybe that first therapist that got you on the road, got you aware of things, kind of pushed you. Like, it's interesting because a therapist probably shouldn't be there for more than 2 years. Like, you're kind of like on your growth trajectory, you should probably level up with your therapist too, or change
Mm,
things. Because one of the things that Zohar said on her podcast, who I love, Do the Work podcast.
mhm.
Yeah, I love that. I love
Yeah, I
her.
love that one.
And she literally says hi to me every time she has a live. I just go, "Hi, sunshine." She
I love that.
like she's like, "Hi, Michelle. Hi, sweetie." But one of the things that I love that she talked about was she's like, she tried so many different types of therapy that she
Yeah.
appreciates each and every therapist for getting her to where she needed to go. So I think there are times in our life, and I'm being very, very kind to people right now, where therapy becomes a little easy and a little stagnant and a little static. And therefore, you look forward to therapy, but not for the reasons you might need to look forward to therapy. Does that?
Yeah, and I will say this as someone who's prepping to go to grad school to become a counselor, an art
Yeah.
therapist, and counselor, as someone who has utilized therapy and many modalities of therapy, I will say this. For me, talk therapy is not the therapy that helped.
It helped originally, right? It helped originally.
No,
Oh,
not for
never
me.
did for you. Oh, it helped me
It
originally.
it never felt like I was getting anywhere
Hmm.
because the time it took to talk to get to the point where an actual issue would come through wasn't leaving me feeling like I had actually addressed the issue at a root problem, like at the source, at the root.
So how,
it felt like,
yeah.
it felt like just fluff to me. Like it felt like small talk to me.
Yeah.
And
it really can when you're not being whether, and from
now that's for me. That's for me.
That's for you.
That
Exactly.
Be different for someone else. And so I think that's why I'm saying this, is that I think it's important that when you're approaching your personal growth, that if something doesn't resonate for you and it doesn't feel like it's pushing you in a productive way, that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It just means that form of therapy is not the thing for you.
Yeah.
And so the form of therapy that really worked for me was sound therapy. That was the thing for me. I got far more value out of sound therapy and float tanks and life coaching than I did with my talk therapist.
So explain why does talk therapy literally not work for you other than the feeling of small talk? What is it? What are you looking? What's your intention when you actually are going to therapy? Like what's the, I think it's having having an intention. Obviously it's like therapy needs to be intent, not just like show up willy-nilly and just hope the therapist's going to kind of lead you through. So
for me, I've always been a very self-aware person. I can tell you at any given time what I'm experiencing, what I'm feeling, how I'm interacting with it. For me, having someone ask me questions about how I'm feeling doesn't help because I already know how I'm feeling. I want to get to the bottom of it. Why am I feeling that way? Why am I having this pattern? Why am I experiencing this thing in this way? And what do I do about it?
I love that.
I don't need, for me as a person, I don't need help identifying how I'm feeling.
Right.
I need help identifying the root of it and how to interact with it and process it. And so being asked questions like, how are you feeling this week? That doesn't cut it for me. That doesn't do it for me. I want to come in and say, this is how I'm feeling. And this is what internal family systems does for me. I come into my therapist and I say, this is what I'm experiencing this week. This is the narrative I'm dealing with. These are the thoughts that are coming up. This is what I'm feeling. I'm identifying this pattern. I'm identifying this issue, this thing that needs to be addressed. She says, great, let's figure out where that's coming from. I go into it's with IFS, you kind of like go into like a bit of a meditative state and you allow the parts of yourself that need to be heard to come up and be heard and seen. And so I'll give an example. Yesterday, I went in with my nervous system completely dysregulated. And I could not get my nervous system regulated despite my usual tools. I was having deep anxiety and fear and I was dysregulated and I was aware of it. I knew it. I couldn't get myself back to a regulated state despite journaling, despite breath work, despite all the things that normally work.
It's funny because I'm like feeling tight as you're saying that. It's so trippy. Like I had to just take a breath.
Yeah. Yeah. It was so heavy. And it was like, okay, I walked in and I was like, this is what's going on for me. This is how I'm feeling. This is what's causing it. I need help getting myself back to a regulated state, my nervous system back to a regulated state. I want to identify what the root of this is, where this is coming from, and then work through it. And she was like, awesome. Let's see what needs to come up. Go into a meditative state. She guides me to these fears. So it's like, okay, allowing the fear to come up and doesn't want to be talked to. Yes, it wants to say something. What does it want to share? And I find myself saying things that are so deep and so body stored that there's no way that just talking face to face, sitting there talking face to face, not in a meditative state, I would have ever have said that, because it's so deep in the body.
So the cool part that I'm hearing from you, and tell me if I'm hearing this right, is even an hour of IFS for you, like, because talk therapy doesn't work and all that, like, you can come in focused on an element of what's happening for you, what you're feeling, what you're sitting, what, like you said, what I'm experiencing this week, and actually come to a conclusion within that hour with some also minimal homework to sort of take you to that next little phase in that, so that you can then be more regulated as you left. Like you say, you calm when you leave there, which a lot of people coming out of therapy or talk therapy don't necessarily feel calm, because they're not really getting to the root. There's not an aha moment. So you're saying like IFS gives you these little sweet aha moments to take with you, but you feel like you've actually accomplished something, which is kind of important in our growth. Like, oh my God, thank you for acknowledging where this is sitting, because that, like, I'm able to take that breath now, because that I'm back in my body.
And what happened was, in the session, as we were working through letting these parts come up and speak and be heard, it took me back to some very deep childhood moments that needed to be looked at from a new lens. And the fear was associated with these childhood moments. And as those things were being processed and I was internally working on it, I felt my body all of a suddenly regulate itself like a snap of a finger. My nervous system immediately calms down. And I no longer felt anxiety, panic, any of those things that I couldn't get myself away from before. It immediately settled my entire body down. I was able to take deep breaths. And at the end of it, I opened my eyes, I came back into the room, and she goes, "How are you feeling now?" And I looked at her and I said, "I'm fucking hungry."
Because you're back in your body, like,
because I was back in my body, and I hadn't eaten all day because of the anxiety.
Cortisol, because of the cortisol in your body, you're just fight or flight at that moment.
Yeah. And so I hadn't been able to eat all day because I was so dysregulated that I couldn't make myself sit down and eat a good meal. And I was like, "I'm fucking hungry." And she goes, "Awesome. You should go get a burger or something." I was like, yes. I went home and I made a great lunch. So for me, it's like, talk therapy always left me feeling almost more dysregulated than when I came in.
Yeah.
Because there was never enough time in talking to get to the thing that needed to be heard and addressed.
I'm going to look into the IFS thing. I'm more just curious about it, but I feel like I would really like it and benefit from it.
I think most people would. I think it's a very helpful model of counseling.
I'm definitely, I mean, you definitely have talked enough about it with me over the last month again. And yeah, I think it's something that, because I like the somatic, I like the EMDR, because I was able to close a cycle of a childhood moment and sit in that pain for that 1 hour. And that actually freed me more so than like a year of talk therapy.
Well, remember in our episode with the lesbian curiosity coach?
Yeah.
She mentioned in working with, as a therapist, working with longtime clients, that she was seeing people have quicker and better results in her coaching programs than people that she had worked with in therapy for 15 plus years.
Yeah, that 12-week program
someone,
as opposed to.
And as someone who is working as a life coach now,
Yep.
and has been in therapy and uses life coaching myself, I will say this. I think that the intention behind using these tools should be results for yourself. And it feels productive and it feels like you're getting somewhere. And so if the therapy modality that you're using doesn't make you feel like you are getting somewhere, that may not be the right modality for you.
It's interesting because I just Googled like, why does talk therapy not work?
You Googled that. That's so
I
funny.
did. I just Googled it. That's how I start. Like when I get curious, right? So,
Yeah.
and it says when the brain has been through any traumatic changes resulting in like a PTSD, anxiety, depression, or other mood disorders, the top-down approaches are often not wholly effective because as trauma alters beliefs and affected informational systems, here it's saying prompting a patient to use a rational approach is often unsuccessful. That
And I
makes
will say that as
so
someone
much
who
sense.
the trauma, like has survived trauma,
Yeah.
especially particularly speaking to trauma survivors,
Mm-hmm.
um, most of us have grown up having to people please. And we are exceptionally good
Uh-huh.
at speaking in a way that doesn't open us up vulnerably.
Oh my God, it's as if we're faking ourselves out in
We're
that moment.
acting.
We're
We're acting
acting,
in
we're
that moment.
performing
We're
in front of
performing.
a therapist because we don't want to disappoint the therapist now.
Exactly.
Holy
Exactly.
fuck. Okay, that's
Exactly.
okay.
Exactly. So if you're not able to bring yourself to a vulnerable space,
Uh-huh.
you can't get the work done.
And even if you feel safe with this person, because you're like, they're a in your mind, they're a therapist, but it's funny because I say that they're my dad, they're my mom, they're my aunt, well, like whoever that is, right? Like in my mind, I'm saying to my brain is saying, of course they're safe. These people are supposed to be safe. And that's not true. And not that the therapist is unsafe. It's just that that type of therapy won't close out a cycle. It might actually like promote it a little bit more or feed into those old traumatic wounds that of course we feel like it feels normal because we're used to being, oh, do you like,
I see your mind being blown right now.
it just clicked in. Like sometimes it takes me a few, but I get there.
Yeah, and that's so true. And that's been true of my experience in that the way that I grew up in a cult, I was so good at performing to
Mhm.
avoid being hurt, um, to be accepted. And so for me, being truly seen wasn't safe.
Mhm.
And so even in talk therapy, it was like, I can talk and talk and talk and tell you all kinds of things. But at the end of the session, have we actually gotten vulnerable and deep river out of it? No, you
Wow,
haven't.
this is eye-opening.
Because it's stored in my body
Mm-hmm.
and I need something besides talking to get it moving and up and out of my body.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy. I'm making notes.
Yeah. That's why for me, like sound therapy immediately takes me to a space where I'm all internal and
Yeah.
there's no talking. There's no talking. I have to sit with myself. And
Yeah.
so much comes up in that meditative state and it forces me to confront myself in that space. And
You
to
know what?
me, that feels more productive than talking.
It's cool to have friends in your life now. Like I look for things like this. Like one of my friends who lives for nature like I do. And
Mm-hmm.
she recognized yesterday that she hadn't been out in nature by herself in a while because she leads hikes or she takes a friend because she knows they need it and she always benefits. We all benefit from that.
Yeah.
But it had been a while since she had sort of a solo inward and because of this energy going on right now, when she told me that, I said, I'm really proud of you because first, she's an earth sign. So getting back outside, as you know, is so crucial. But then on top of it, like just her knowing herself, and I just said, well, just at least let a few of us know kind of where you're going to be, just so in case,
Yeah.
God forbid, anything happens. But she's great, like you, like we're all good solo on our own, but we need to tell somebody something, right? It's not because we don't trust ourselves or people need to keep an eye on us. It's more just like, hey, safety first type of thing. But yeah, I'm so proud. And she posted a little video and I was like, look at her. She's just so happy, being out there by herself. And it's just amazing what that quiet, whether you choose a whatever modality, like you said, sound therapy or jumping in one of those baths that I did, like
float tank,
the float tank, which I totally will do again. But I'm kind of actually like the sound therapy more, that I'm finding when I want to regulate myself. I'll set my watch timer for 15 minutes, go on do not disturb, and put like a Tibetan monk's chant or bells. Or yesterday I actually tried something new. I went for like these lower frequencies that are supposed to like tap into like other parts of the brain and for like healing and stuff. And I was like, I only knew like the 9 that I'd sort of Googled before, like for chakra stuff, but this was really cool. And I went right into my third eye and I started smiling. Like it's so interesting for me still because it's still very new. But when I start, and I'm seeing like you can see the space visual thing behind me right now. Like I have like
your background on Zoom is the space.
So like my thing, it went away. My third eye went from the gold tones to this light blue tones. And I was seeing things come in and out. Again, they sort of float around me, but there was like shapes, like one of my spirits, or in my third eye, I saw hearts. I saw shape like for the first time, and I just start to smile. I'm like, and I literally said out loud, I could, because I'm with myself of only, so I'm like, oh my God, I go, yes, bring more of this. Like I was like talking, to myself over it, but I felt so rejuvenated after a 10 or 15 minutes. I think I did 15 minutes is usually my typical, like just a little power nap, but I didn't actually go to sleep this time. I wanted to like stay, awake. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, so for me, with a lot of earth, like the Taurus in my chart, when I need to regulate, I have to go to nature. Like nature is my best spot for regulating, and like getting bare feet on the ground for me, like earthing, grounding is so needed. But then when it's like I want to meditate and get to the space where I'm having visions or I'm speaking with internal self, there's so much water in my chart, like Cancer moon, Scorpio rising, that I need to go be in or near water. So float tanks for me, when I float in float tanks, I have wild visions. Like it immediately takes me to that third eye space. Like the second I touch water, if I sit next to a river, I'm right there. It's right there for me. It's so wild.
Kaden has been asking to go up to nature for a little bit. I think she misses that Portland energy as well. And she's a Virgo. So what I love, because she typically doesn't ask, and now she's asking, and I'm like, hell yeah. So funny enough, a beautiful hike found me on Instagram, right? How I follow people who hike and stuff, but it's this place only 2 hours away, and the fall foliage is changing, and like the little creeks and river. And I said, should we drop off the dog? And she's like, no, let's take Cooper with us. He needs it too. And so I was like, okay. So tomorrow I said, it's only a 2-hour drive. So it's not too far. It's just enough like of a drive to feel like you're out of the city a little bit. But so we're going to do that tomorrow. And I think
that is why I love when parents learn about their kids' astrology and like their human design, because I know for me, like knowing that my kids are a Virgo and a Cancer, and knowing their charts and then knowing their human design type, I know how to help them regulate, and I know what tools they need to regulate. And And it's so wildly different between the two of them. What one needs is the complete opposite of what the other needs. And so like my little Virgo, it's like if he's dysregulated, I need to take him for a walk. He needs to grab a crystal bracelet, and he does. Like he has a huge stack of crystal bracelets. He loves them.
So cute.
He needs to be outside, and he needs to be doing something as a generator. He needs to be using up his energy. Usually if he's frustrated, it's because he's feeling stagnant. So he needs to be outside doing something that lights him up. And so
That kind of resonates for me.
yeah, as a generator. And I'm like, okay, that's what he needs to regulate and to be in his good space. And then it's like my little Cancer manifester. Cancer is a water sign, and it's like she needs, when she's dysregulated, she needs a hot shower. She needs quiet time.
She needs
She needs rest. She needs a lot of rest, and she needs creativity. So when she's dysregulated, I'm like, take this Go-Gurt, because she loves Go-Gurts, take this Go-Gurt and go get in the hot shower. And she does. And it's an immediate mood changer for her. Or it's like after school, I can see that you need to rest because you've been using your brain so much. Take your tablet, go to your room with a cozy blanket. I'm going to bring you a snack tray, and I want you just to rest for an hour. And she does. And it fills her back up. So like as a parent, knowing your kids chart and their human design can help you parent them better.
Oh, it's made the biggest difference because today I know, like, and this is why I got our flu shots and I got a booster for myself. She had hers a little back, but I did all on Friday afternoon, knowing that she would just want to chillax today, like just relax. And in case, also, I didn't want to plan anything major today in case we both felt kind of crummy, right? So I just looked over, I just reiterated, hey, you know how you had that great idea? Because projectors love to know it's their idea.
Totally.
It is, it's so cute. And she's like, yeah. She's like leaning into me. I go, so I found a really cool hike, not too far, like some nature that we can literally drive up and see a waterfall and just go play out in the trees. And you can just feel like you can be any animal you want, like, and just go and run. And like, we can make things and stuff like that. So she was actually really excited. She goes, but today just totally chill. I go, yep, today 100% we're going to chill. I made yummy food. Like we're all good. Like we have all of our snacks.
I love that.
And so it's like giving her the permission today to just do art or, but you're right. But it makes it so much easier, especially when you are then a single parent, and it's fun because I've been sort of teaching Carrie a little bit about her needs and sending her little articles on our little projector. And, and so I hope it's been helping her a little bit too, even though their dynamic is totally different, as you know, how it is with different parents.
Yes.
Yes. So, I mean, that's all we will say on that today, but, but no, it is really like, it's so sweet, so intentional. And, look, it's 11:14, but 1:11 I see on the clock. 1:1. I love that.
And it's literally 1:1 or 11:11 on my clock over here.
That's funny. In your car?
In my car, yeah.
That's funny. So it's a few minutes behind, but that's funny that it's 1:11 there. But yeah, I think this intentional parenting thing is amazing because I sent you some photos of her with the choir and because you do choir. So I just thought, of
course, and I love seeing that.
Yeah. And everybody loved that picture of her that I took at the end, where she's like with the flowers that Carrie's boyfriend actually brought for her, which is really sweet. And I sat next to him and oh my God, we took a selfie and sent it to Carrie because she was on a work trip. And she's like, I love this. But so I'm just, I know she was so happy to see both of us sitting next to each other. She didn't have to feel like I wasn't sitting elsewhere for whatever, like I didn't put anything on her in that moment. Yeah. And boy, I mean, she continues to thrive when we take an approach of what's best for Caden first.
Oh my gosh. Yes. It's so interesting because this week, speaking to that, like with co-parenting, this week I invited my kid's dad to come trick-or-treating with us because I have the kids Sunday evening through Thursday evening. And so
Yep.
Halloween following on a weekday 2 years in a row, he didn't have Halloween with them last year. And I just felt like, I don't want him to have to miss out on some of these things. I invited him to come with us. And was it difficult for me? Absolutely. Is it hard for me to be around him because of our dynamics in relationship? Yes. But being the person I am, I'm able to put that aside, compartmentalize that, and put the kids first. And they loved that we went and did something as a family together and made that memory. They know their dad and I are not getting back together, but having both of their parents there with them made that such a better experience for them.
You literally healed for them in that moment. You healed, ancestral, shit. Hundreds of
Oh my
years of
gosh. As
ancestral
a
shit.
kid, like I will speak to that, like as a kid whose parents didn't put them first, what a beautiful gift to be able to give our kids to
Yeah.
know that no matter what, their parents, whether they're together or not, whether they have beef or not, are putting them first, choosing them first. What a game changer.
I know, because at the end, her boyfriend drove off, and I think he said, "Do you guys want to ride?" But Katie and I were just knee deep in conversation already on the walk back to my place, which is close by, of the performance. And we had the most fun walk back. And just me being, I just was like gushing over her and her whole, choir, and how much work they must have put in. And she just, it was just so fun and so enjoyable. And then, of course, I gave her a little downtime because, as you know, just kids need that in general. They just can't come back in from a performance, like that energy. Because I remember that, like when I used to do comedy or warm up TV shows, and like any type of thing, even after like tennis, playing, a tennis tournament, like you're kind of amped on stuff.
Yeah, your energy is high.
Yeah. I'm not just going to say, okay, now go to bed. Like,
yeah. Oh, no. You can't
just
do
be
that.
revving sitting there. Yeah. So giving her that again, but it's like, because I'm taking the time to learn what's best for her. It's so freaking cool. You sent a cool video, and it was so interesting the way that this guy worded things. I'm just kind of like pivoting here because I thought,
Pivot.
oh, I love you saying. Let's see if we can harmonize it.
Pivot.
Yeah, I don't know if I was good in that moment. I
That
think
was a Friends reference, by the way. Did you know?
oh yeah, no, with the pivot with the couch. Pivot, but he's like, pivot. And they all die laughing. Do you remember? They were like, it was like not in, and what they left it in. It should have been bloopered, because Jennifer Aniston, and of course, R.I.P., Matthew Perry. They were literally losing it. And David Schwimmer is just like, pivot. Pivot. Okay, so we're pivoting for any of those people who love Friends, because there's a lot of videos around going now with Friends all over the place. So,
yeah.
But I love that this guy, and I wrote down what he said because I felt like it can apply to so many things. And
this is the Instagram video I sent you, right?
Totally. And it was, any person can love you. And I'm probably going to mess it up a little bit, but like, anyone can love you. They can show you emotions and give back to you. Love presents a chance for consistent, caring love. And anyone can say they want the best out of you, or that they can make you, that, they can basically make you self-conscious, and they can make you feel almost any feeling across. But is it really like the love that you want for yourself? Like, it's like, he's like, my point is, anybody can love you, but not many people can love you consistently when times are hard, where it requires self-discipline and boundaries. So it's not whether or not this person has a love for you, but it is the relationship, or is it a love that's based off of his or her emotions, right? Or it's not about whether or not that human has the capacity to love you, but are they loving you the way that you yourself, and the way you need to be loved, River, is different the way that I need to be loved, and in a relationship, of course, like,
Are they, everyone can have love for someone.
right.
How does that love show up?
Correct.
How does that love show up? Because I'm not going to sit here and say that my kid's dad didn't love me.
Right.
I knew he loved me.
Yeah.
I knew he wouldn't have asked me to marry him if he didn't love me.
Right.
But the way that his love showed up,
Yep.
it didn't show up.
Right.
Because despite loving me, he still chose to cheat on me constantly.
Yeah.
And have his actions show up in a way that were not loving actions.
Yeah.
There was no consistency. There was no holding space. So the way that someone shows their love and how it shows up for you speaks volume about who they are as a person.
Yeah.
And I think that I mean, a lot of times speaking to relationships, a lot of times people hesitate to leave a relationship because, well, this person loves me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's great. That's great. But how does their love show up for you?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel truly deeply loved? Do you feel seen?
Right.
Do you feel like your needs are being met? If the answer is no, well, that's great that they say that they love you. But are you being well loved? No, you're not.
So fascinating.
Are you taking notes?
Yeah. I'm taking notes. I really am. No, I'm taking notes so that I kind of remember when I'm writing the show notes of things articles that I might want to share in the show notes for people.
Yeah.
So I've started doing that because otherwise I have to otherwise I listen to the whole thing, or I just kind of paraphrase what the whole scope of it is. But I want to do better with regards to providing more content for our listeners to like be able to be curious if they're curious themselves.
Yeah.
It is interesting because I mean, I just did the whole solo cast on how I know I can love, right?
Which I loved so much.
Thank you. And it's just interesting because it's true. Like, I'm not the person I was 2 years ago. And what I'm asked, like this morning, you and I were literally just talking about like, oh, we need to change what we want. Like, because as we grow, okay, if like, let's talk to the single girls right now, right? And hopefully I'm going to assume those folks who are following us and are on their own journey, and they are awakening, and they are divine feminines in their own right? Like these folks.
Yeah.
So
you're on a growth journey.
Exactly. I'm thinking that they're a bunch of like-minded, cool chicks that are following. So one thing that we were realizing today is the list that we created a year ago, our requirements, our non-negotiables, or even the letter that we've written ourselves from the POV of who we want, who our future life mate would be, right? Or even the letter we wrote to ourselves, because and maybe I have that, I think, from Bailey, and maybe we can share that. Maybe we'll ask Bailey if we can share a piece of that to show, because I think she gives such a good guided, intentional place to start for people who might not know where to start or where this is resonating from. But I kind of feel like, it's time to rebirth, because that's what this month is. It's a rebirth. I think that's what I was trying to say earlier, in the sense of there's so much going on out there, but at the end of the day, this energy is about a rebirth for all of us, because that 2-year cycle closed, and it didn't have anything to do with it. It was a moon chart. It was the moon eclipse and that kind of stuff chart. It wasn't necessarily based on specific astrology. So now it's like a rebirth. And also through the holidays, I
I
feel,
was just gonna say winter. I mean, if we speak to seasonally and like
yes,
following lunar cycles and seasonal patterns, like winter is a time to dig deep, to let things die, to go deep inside and relax and sit with yourself so that in the spring we can be rebirthed.
yeah, so that all of our beautiful leaves can grow back.
Yeah, this is the period where it's like the roots, like you don't see the activity that's happening below the surface of our planet, right? You don't see what's happening on the soil, but the roots are there. They're waiting.
Right. And I like taking it even from a point of view, like we were talking about soup earlier. Like this is also a time to like nourish from inside
Yeah.
out. Not
Yeah.
only just take yourself and withdraw a little bit, because like I said in my podcast, like I literally am the most extroverted hermit these days.
Yeah.
And that's totally okay. And I'm good. Like I mean, I'm happy. Like I have a pep in my step, and I am excited for this rebirth and for digging in and now kind of taking that breath and realizing how we need to as a single gal, right? Like if I'm talking to the single ladies, all the single ladies. I'm sure Beyonce is a starseed, so it's okay. And no, I think yeah, looking at those non-negotiables and requirements that you created a year or 2 years or 10 years ago, like it doesn't matter. Like when I look back at the ones I created in my 20s and now what I've created, like it's a whole new list. But I think it's time to redo that and taking that time and being intentional and making sure that you're not spread thin that day, but taking a time to like give yourself whatever time frame you need, but staying ultra present. And I think it's really important. You're not necessarily creating the list to fit somebody specifically. I think it's really important to create the list that fits you and where you are right now, and giving yourself permission to want whatever it is you need to want and show up with that intention. And the manifestation above and beyond that is saying to yourself, I'm already that person.
It's a cool moment. It's a cool moment when you get to a space where you are so solid on what it is that you want and you need.
Yep.
That you can look at a human being sitting a foot away from you that you thought was everything that you wanted, and look at them and hear them speak and see who they are and truly see them and be like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. You do not fit the bill. Next.
And it's
And
interesting
that is such a powerful space to be. And I say that as someone who just had that experience today, last night. Choosing yourself and your list being non-negotiable.
Well, because I think when you get to a place, and I was commending you this morning because I was like, holy shit, you need to make a new list because you yourself is numero uno these days. And you are a giver. You need another giver, right? Like you really need no more takey wakey. You need
And
a
I specifically
giver.
need a giver who is a healthy giver. And we've said before, you do not need to be perfectly healed to be in a relationship.
No.
Absolutely not. Healing is a lifelong journey.
Yep.
But you do have to be at a certain level of self-awareness and capacity to hold space for other people in order to be a healthy giver in a relationship.
Yes, being in a relationship, or if you are a single girl and we're talking to you, recognizing your worth and your value and going out. If you're going out on dates, I commend you. If you are on dating apps, fantastic. Really putting yourself at the forefront and not thinking how that person's going to fit into your life in the sense of potential, but
Yep.
fitting into your life because, whoa, I never thought like that perspective is cool. Whoa, I always wanted to go there. Cool, let's do it. Oh, wow, I never like having someone give you a couple of ahas instead of all the butterflies. I rather have ahas than butterflies.
And who are they right now as a person versus the potential that you see in them?
And that's just
because you cannot
we
date
all go
potential.
to the potential, don't we? We all, because we're very active imaginations.
You can see a future them that you like, but do you like who they are right now in this moment?
Well,
If you find yourself thinking, I don't like who they are in this moment, it's you're no.
it's okay because they're just not your person. So good job on you. You figured it out and you're not wasting anyone's time.
Move along.
What is that song? Thank you, next.
Thank you, next. Yes, exactly. Thank you, next.
That'll be our new mantra. No, I just think it's God, it's just fascinating when you're thinking about it on this level of like you said, can they meet me now? That's all that really is. It's actually not a very hard question. Are they emotionally available for me now? I'm not talking 20 years from now where, you've built a life and all the things. I'm saying like, and I'm not even looking back 2-3 months from now. I mean, does this person meet me where I'm at? And do they excite me in the way that emotionally, mentally, like they're pulling cool stuff out of me?
And furthermore, this one's a big one for me. How does my nervous system feel when I'm with them?
Yeah.
Am I fully regulated?
Yeah.
Are they triggering me in some way? Do I start feeling anxious in some way? Do I feel able to be myself with them? Or am I wearing a mask around this person even right off the bat?
So if we're talking to the single girls, and let's call it intentional dating. But I mean, I hate the word dating though, too. Is there a better word for intentional connections? I mean,
I feel like when people hear intentional connections, they automatically go to like sex for some reason.
okay.
I feel like that kind of connotates that. It's hard because it's like, I'm in the space where would I like to have a partner? Yes. Am I being intentional about that? Yes. Am I out there doing a bunch of dating? No, I'm not. And so dating, I have a hard time with the word dating too, because it's like dating for me like brings up like, hey, every weekend I'm going on a date Friday night, I'm going on a date Saturday night. I'm like talking to all these people and going through the motions and meeting all these people. So like I'm not doing that either.
So what I'm trying to think of like what we can say, like, is it just heart open and working on ourselves? Like just staying heart open. Like
we're heart open.
Yeah, we're just heart open.
Yeah.
Like whatever's supposed to happen. Like we trust the fact that the universe has our back, and we trust our newfound love for ourself. Our self-love is what are those little things called that some of the spiritual people use, those little sticks?
Oh, like the dowsing ones?
Yeah. It's like, is that a yes? Or is it a no?
Cross this way for yes, go this way for no. Yeah.
And it's kind of like we like our own internal wands.
Yeah, and I'm like, I find myself, I am not actively seeking out to date people.
Right, me either.
But I am consciously aware of the people coming into my field.
Yes.
And the people that are around me. So like even at the grocery store.
Yeah.
I had this moment happen a couple weeks ago. It was so cute. I was at the dollar store getting some supplies for something. I can't remember. It was the dollar store, and I was in the aisle that had like the toilet paper and the tissues and stuff like that. And there was this really attractive man. in that same aisle getting some cooking stuff. And we kind of made eye contact. And I was like, oh, he's tall and dark haired and tattooed and cute. And I was like, oh, he's cute. And then I went to the checkout line and he got in the checkout line behind me. And I was just very aware that he was aware of me. I could feel it. He was paying attention, like he was checking me out. He ended up going to the next register because the next register opened because there was a long line. And he kept looking back at me and making eye contact. And like, again, nothing was said.
He was thinking, I'm getting out of here first.
He was like,
I picked the right line.
He was like, this girl's cute. He's checking me out. And then he went out and it looked like he sat in his truck. I could see through the windows of the store. He sat in his truck and was like waiting and like watching to see if I was going to come out. And that might sound a little bit creepy, but like there was this energy of like someone was noticing me and I was aware of it. And it was kind of cute and flirty a little bit. And then he left and it was like, whatever. But I'm in that space where I'm like paying attention to what's happening around me and how people's energies are interacting with mine. And they're like, you can feel the way that they're engaging towards you, how they're noticing you, what their intentions are. And so I'm just in this space where I'm noticing the people in my field, paying attention to how it feels to me, what my body is reacting to, like, oh, I think that person's attractive out of the corner of my eye, paying attention to these things. So I am just aware so that when maybe I run into someone and it feels like a good opportunity to start conversation organically, you never know. You might meet someone in the post office that becomes your soulmate. You never know.
I know.
And like that's part of it for me, where it's like I'm not out looking for dates. I'm not actively dating, but I'm aware of what's in my field.
I like that. So if I don't go out at all, am I aware? Just kidding. No, I do. I am out in the world, of course, but I'm like,
if I just stay at home with my soup,
I'm
at
just
home.
making soup at home. I just want to eat my soup at home. No, I'm just kidding. You know, it's not even like I just am. So one of my friends, and she may hear this, but it was funny. She texted me, "Do you remember me?" Like, and I said, "You're hard to forget." That was my only. Oh my God, people are funny, but it's like, but those are my responses these days. It's just like, well, yeah, you're hard to forget. Like, where do I go with that?
I mean, what do you say to that? Like,
I don't know. Of course I remember you.
Yes, I remember you. Have we talked in a while? No.
Right. That's exactly right. We just haven't talked in a while, but of course.
Does it mean something? Not necessarily.
Not at all. Well, it's cute because one of my best friends, Tanya, she texted me yesterday. She's like, "How are you?" And I go, "I've just honestly been busy." And I just listed a bunch of stuff. She goes, "Oh, you really really busy?" I go, "Yeah, it's true." I go, "I honestly just haven't been doing much and just been focused on myself and Kaden and just doing the podcast."
Yeah.
And just like really going, she's just not used to me being that way, but she was so cute, so supportive. I'm like, we need a night for each other and, go play pickleball or something. So
I think that's important though, too, that people do that and reach out and remind us that that's important as well. Cause I will say I have the same thing happen with my friends. One of my guy friends, he was telling me about how he went to a party on Halloween week, the weekend before Halloween. And he was like, you should have come. And I was like, well, honestly, I don't get invited to parties. Like most of my friends are married couples. And since my divorce process, I honestly just don't get invited to many social events with my married friends. It's just one of those things that happen.
Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. It's not a big deal. Yeah. Because I know it's not like choosing sides or ill intention or worried about their men or anything like that. It's just, I think a lot of couples assume that as a single person, you don't want to hang out with a lot of married couples.
That makes sense.
And maybe a lot of singles don't, but that doesn't bother me. But anyways, my friend, he was like, it's really important that you make time to socialize because you're always so busy. You're working so much on the weekends. He's like, we never see you out doing things. And I was like, yeah, that's so true. I just feel like as a single mom, I just don't have the space. And he's like, well, sometimes you have to be intentional in making the space. And he was so sweet because now he's planning a dinner party next weekend solely with the intent for me to socialize with other human beings and just hang out and have a good time. And he's cooking for all of us, like 5 or 6 people at his house. And he's like, let's do this. Let's socialize and like bring Cards Against Humanity and let's just like play and have a great time. And so I get to do that next weekend and I'm so excited about it.
I think that's really, really, that was really sweet of him. I mean,
Yeah, so
I love
sweet.
that. I love that for you. No, I think it is, but you know why? Because it's interesting because I typically am the one to always reach out to everybody. And when I all of a sudden just pull back my energy for a period of time because it's pretty
Everyone's like,
significant.
whoa, what's
Yeah,
going on with Michele?
well, yeah, that's why I'm getting like, do you remember me? How are you? Like my friend, my other really close friend in LA, she reached out to me and is like, are you okay? You know, like just checking in on you, what you doing? You know, it's funny how that all happens, but it is nice. Like you said, it's a nice reminder that, oh, it's good. If I were to be dead in my, house for a few weeks, people would finally
People
find
would
me.
know. They
Yeah,
would
people would
know.
be like, well, Cooper obviously would probably let people know, but he'd be barking or something like, hey, come here. She's a dead. Just kidding. She's a goner.
Cooper would let the world
Hayden,
know.
enjoy your $1 million life insurance policy. Oh. I always think that like I literally have done so much in my life. I swear I'm not afraid of death. Like and I know my kid is totally taken care of because my mom's still alive and Mary Jean is still alive, and I happen to just eat it that she is 100%. I mean, she'll miss me, all the emotional stuff of it, but she'll be very well taken care of.
I'm not afraid of death. The only thing that makes me sad about the idea of myself being gone is for my kids because my kids and I are so emotionally connected. I'm their emotional safe person that the idea of them not having me around anymore breaks my heart because I know it would be heartbreaking for them.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not afraid of death. I mean, so many people are afraid of death and I've been around it. I sat with two of my grandparents when they passed away. Like death does not scare me. It's just part of the journey. I'm just not ready for it yet because I have small little babies.
Mm-hmm. No, totally. Well, this has been a fun conversation.
We addressed so many different things, and I love how our conversations flow.
I know they are fun. I mean, we kind of come in with a few little notes of like what we'd like to talk about, but just so you know, people, this is just who we are.
We are just living out loud.
Well, and we really are living out loud. And I think, I'm looking forward. I have a couple of folks who are trying to give me some dates, guests who are giving me some dates for Saturdays to record. It's
Cool.
11:44 on my clock right now.
Ooh.
So I know we'll have a few guests coming up, but it's because of the holiday season. Like a lot of people are going to be gone. So I know it's going to just be you and I for a bit, but I'm definitely getting folks on our books so that we can have some more guests, and we're just trying to be mindful and I don't want anyone to ever feel pressured into being a guest. I want them to tell us what feels really good for them because we get the best out of them.
Yeah, absolutely. It needs to feel organic and feel good and like it's serving.
A good purpose. I know because January's coming and I really want to get a couple of people for lifestyle wellness, new chapters, things like that can just speak to the new year. Cause I hate resolutions and I want to always come up with other fun solutions that feel like you can create new year intentions without it feeling like you're failing in the first week of a new year just because of the dumb word resolution. I think it's the dumbest word in the dictionary.
Yeah, I don't like that concept either. It's
No,
like,
I
what are
mean,
your
what
intentions?
it means. Like the word resolution is a beautiful word, but because it can involve resolution of war, resolution of,
Yeah, but it's the concept of setting these specific goals that are just so big that out the gate you're never gonna get them done, and then you're gonna feel like shit about not doing it.
and how the gyms are totally crowded those first 3 weeks. Like it's so stupid. Like just start today. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, just go for a walk today.
Stop
Start
waiting
your
for
journey.
next Monday. Stop waiting for next Monday. Do it today. Just start
Exactly.
today.
Just start today. Clean out the pantry, clean out just get a head start and end the year stronger so that you start the year stronger. And that, mentally, emotionally, and physically.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I love you, friend.
Love you too.
You're the most fun. You're so fun on
you.
You're so fun on a Saturday.
Yeah.
You're actually fun on a Sunday and a Monday.
All
Sunday,
the days.
remember the song? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, love. Do you remember that? Is that just an 80s? Do you remember?
Yes.
Oh my God. I gotta find it because it's so good.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know
love
if Caden's ever heard it. I gotta play that. Saturday. Oh yeah. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, love. Oh my God. All right. Love ya.
Love you too. Mwah.
Mwah.
If you enjoyed this episode today, be sure to subscribe and share because what do we say, baby?
Sharing is caring.